week. They could be at 6 wins. They could be still at 5 wins. And this AFC South race, the bottom of the line here is it could get tight in a hurry if things break the Titans' way. Welcome into the Hot Read Podcast for Friday, November the 17th. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, Director of Published Content here at BrawleySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network. You can follow me on social media at Easton Freeze. I'm joined, as always, by producer JT here live at Boomba's Craft Pizza and Tap House in Spring Hill. JT, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah. Once again, great place to be. An even better place to watch tonight's Thursday night football game.
Yeah, we finally have a great one.
We finally have a good one.
10 weeks toiling, wandering in the desert. You have to die before you go to heaven. Here we are. We've died. Last week we died with the Panthers and the Bears. And we get Bengals Ravens tonight. One could argue an elimination game for your Cincinnati Bengals.
Correct.
Certainly important. Or vibe check. How are we feeling?
Fine. I mean, I'm excited.
You're lying. You're a liar.
I mean, I'm a little worried. I'm not going to lie. It's tough, man. It really does feel like an elimination game, at least for the Bengals. So they're going to have to bring it tonight. Yeah. One way or the other. It'll
be exciting. We'll be watching live here at Boomba's, and we would love for you to come hang out with us. Of course, we do the show here live on Thursday evenings at 5:30, but then we hang around at the bar for at least the first half of every single Thursday night football game all season long, and we're doing gift card giveaways each and every week. So if you want to come and eat and drink on our dime, on Boombaz's dime, just come say hey. We'd love to hook you up with one of those. They make great pizza. You got a great selection of brews on tap, and it's a great place to watch the game on one of the many flat screen TVs they have here in the store. If you're watching with us live today, appreciate you being in with us. Do us a couple of favors. First of all, if you're watching on Facebook or on Twitter, head on over to Brawley Sports Media's YouTube page. Brawley Sports Media on YouTube. You'll find the live stream of this show there. And that is where you'll be able to be a part of the conversation live with us, the comment section of that video, like William and Derek, who are here with us already. William saying, hope y'all are having a great week. Always appreciate when I can get on the live show. We appreciate you being here, William. Thanks for spending some time to talk Titans with us. Of course, we're previewing Titans-Jaguars today, and it is a game that, as we talked about last week, kind of previewed this 2-game Florida road game stretch. It's a turning point.
Yes.
I think I'm searching for the word. I can't think of anything better than a turning point in the season for this Titans team. It's not to say that they are strong contenders if they win and absolutely out if they lose, but if they want any chance of being able to compete in the AFC South, they need to win this game. And if they are going to be playing the rest of the season for the best possible draft pick, they need to lose this game. Is essentially how this is going to go. One last thing, if you're watching with us live, send this link to a buddy, a friend. Help us share the show as best you can. We want as many live eyeballs on this show as possible. So if you can hit that like button, retweet button, all of those things you can help us do to get the show out there would be considered a personal favor. So thank you for that. We'd love to hear your thoughts, by the way, on this game. Any questions or comments you might have, drop those in the comments section for us. Let's get underway here with some preview statistics. First of all, this is not a number, but JT, I don't know if you saw earlier today on a football show, our friends Zach and Braden earlier in the day were talking about this game. Check that show out after we are done here. But Zach brought up an interesting point. It was week 11 last year, Thursday Night Football in Green Bay. The Titans really did the last good thing until they fell apart. Of course, they went on the road, a big statement game. It's a Traylon Burks coming out party. Ryan Tannehill looks really good. The offensive line performs well. Everything is hunky-dory. And then on the plane ride home, a certain somebody had a couple too many and got himself in trouble the next morning. And then from there, we've gone through this. Everything spiraled. The team fell apart. They lost 7 straight. And now we are 1 full year removed. It both feels longer than that and shorter than that.
I would agree. Yes.
It does. Part of me feels like we were just talking about this, and part of me feels like that was ages ago. But maybe the way that the NFL works and just the voodoo narrative here that Zach brought up, I completely concur. I do not actually back this idea, but if it's true, then I was on this boat. I just want to put it out there. If we're right, we were there. If we're wrong, then I didn't have anything to do with this. maybe they died week 11 last year, and then this week 11, that's when they come back to life. That's science, right? That's how that has to work.
That's how that works.
Maybe this is the last game they lose, and then they win out the rest of the season. Maybe it's the inverse.
I mean, to be fair here, just not to put it out in the ether like this as well, but they are facing the Jacksonville Jaguars, who at this time as well were 3-6 last year, and then go on that run and end up winning the AFC South. So I'm not saying that it couldn't happen.
The point is, it's possible.
It is possible.
It is not likely. Possible. It is not likely, but it is possible. Let's get to some actual numbers here, and we're going to parrot this one, just copied and pasted from last week's show. It remains true despite the Titans single-handedly trying to make the statistic less valuable in the future. According to the Action Network, teams that face either the Buccaneers, Jaguars, or Dolphins, so one of the Florida NFL teams, on the second leg of a road trip or longer, are 95-52 now because the Titans lost last week, and 5 against the spread. 95-51 and 5, or 52 and 5 against the spread in the last 20 years. We don't know if that has to do with the fact that it's the state of Florida, or the warm weather, or the fact that these teams have been relatively bad over the last 20 years, all told. But that is a statistic in the favor of the Titans, both from a betting perspective and a winning perspective. With Trevor Lawrence, who we're going to talk about a decent amount today, the Jaguars are just, and this is, you brought this to me, and I was surprised by just how big a gap this is. He's just 8-16.
The next week after a loss.
You're right. The next week after a loss, and 9-15 in those games against the spread. So not been great at bouncing back in his NFL career. I mean, that's a big reason why he's the 11th least profitable straight up quarterback since he was drafted. Also, just 4-11 ATS when facing teams with a record at or worse 500. That's surprising. They can't. So you hear good teams win, great teams cover. The Jaguars have done a decent amount of winning recently with Trevor Lawrence, but they've not been able to cover against the bad teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's classic. What a lot of teams go through, and where they play down to their competition. This Jags team has been no exception, because they do have some glaring holes. As Derek says here, the Jags are still going to jag eventually. It's in their nature. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of holes on this team, despite the sexy weapons that they have at their disposal. You see all of those fall flat last week against the 49ers in a really good defense. So
everything didn't work against that.
Nothing worked for them. And then, like I said right there with those stats, or like you said, it's not been great for them to bounce back the next week either.
No, and to be fair, if you do, and I buy into this relatively often, teams in the NFL, they ebb and they flow. It's a wave, and so you're going to have some games that you're up and some games that you're down, and there's a lot of bounce back and regression spots. It's obviously a bounce back spot for a Jaguars team. They got embarrassed at home off of their bye last week against the Niners. Very good team. The Titans are no Niners, but the Niners proved this Jaguars team is absolutely fallible. One of the things the Niners did, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show, they did a very good job of getting after Trevor Lawrence in the pass rush. We know that on paper, the Titans have the horses to do that, but in practice, it's not been something they've done a whole lot of. Some other numbers for you before we dive into some opinions on this game. The Jaguars have done a good job in their last 9 divisional matchups. They've outscored their opponents in the last 9 AFC South meetings, 229-166. Through 10 weeks, the Jaguars are tied for the most takeaways in the NFL with 18. The Titans near the bottom of the list. Now, the Titans it's a double-edged sword, right? They've done a pretty good job, actually, this year of not turning the ball over. They're near the top in terms of turnovers, but causing turnovers, creating turnovers, taking away the ball from the offense, they are near the bottom. So it's been, most Titans games this year have been very low in terms of total turnovers. That could change. It's kind of an immovable object meeting an unstoppable force here. The Jaguars doing a fantastic job leading the NFL with 18 takeaways so far this season. Their secondary has also been very effective, ranking second in the AFC with 11 interceptions on the year. So if you're looking for a Will Levis rookie mistake game, throw a couple of picks. Wouldn't shock me if this is the game where that comes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's one of the biggest takeaways this season, right? Or for this game so far this season. We've seen now for 3 weeks, as much as Will Levis has shown his flashes, he's gotten away with a couple of plays where he makes a very poor decision. And
last week in particular, I think there were 2 balls before he did finally throw an interception that absolutely could have been, or maybe should have been intercepted.
Now he's going up against a secondary that has made those quarterbacks pay when they make bad decisions. So if the Titans at all want to have a chance in this game, Will Levis is going to have to eliminate those from his game, and B, just not turn the ball over, because whether or not this Jags defense is just that good at taking the ball away, it's happened this year for them, and they're going to continue to try to win the turnover battle.
Now, I said before the season, and I still kind of believe this, although I have to eat my shorts a little bit on this, because they statistically have done a pretty good job this year. We came into the year previewing the AFC South. I was talking about how I thought this Jaguars defense was just a bunch of nobodies, just a bunch of Jags, no pun intended. And they've done a good job. They have been, you could argue they've actually been the stronger unit of the two on this Jacksonville team, which is both an indictment of their offense and a reflection of how their defense has been playing, I think, a little bit above where they should be on paper. Now, don't get me wrong, against the Titans, that's frankly the team, like, if you want to pad your defensive stats, not a bad idea to play the Titans. One other guy, we're going to talk about a couple other individuals in this game, but a guy that I think the Titans have to, I'm sure they are focusing on, and Titans fans need to keep an eye on. I know the Titans are focusing on this guy because he ate them up twice last year and was in one of the 2 games they played last year. You could argue the reason they lost the game. It's Evan Ingram.
Yep.
Star tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Really just a glorified receiver, if we're being honest. Doesn't do a whole lot of tight ending, but he's a big body that lines up on the end of the offensive line, lines up in the slot frequently, runs routes frequently, and last year gave the Titans middle linebackers, put him in a blender, absolutely keeping it kid-friendly here, gave him a hard time.
Yes.
And that is something that I'm sure they have circled this week. We cannot allow him to beat us. Now, I'm not sure they have the guys to dictate that. It may be out of their control, the Titans. Their linebacking core, we've been talking about how it is a difficult group. It's a very limited group, and they may have to scheme ways to get some of those safeties involved. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw some more safety work in the box this week from the Titans just to try to mitigate that. Maybe force Jacksonville, who surprisingly, I don't know if you've been paying a lot of attention to them, JT, but the past couple of weeks, Calvin Ridley has been non-existent. They've not been pushing the ball downfield with him. In fact, when they look to push the ball downfield, they've been going to Christian Kirk a lot recently. I'm not sure what Press Taylor, the guy calling their plays, their offensive coordinator, is doing exactly. It's the wrong guy. Like, you need to get your big-bodied field stretcher down there. Like, I don't know. I mean, Calvin Ridley, it's not a big body, but he's bigger than Christian Kirk, I believe. Am I wrong about that?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I know at least
he's a more talented deep threat. I'm kind of just assuming he's bigger based on vibes, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah,
but he's either way. He's so historically he's the better deep threat is the bottom line here, and they've not been utilizing him that way. And I'm confident in saying they're doing it with the wrong guy. I don't know why. And Christian Kirk is fine. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of a deep threat, Calvin Ridley is that guy on this team. They've not been doing it. Maybe the Titans dare them to do that a little bit more. Maybe they identify that as a weakness for Jacksonville, saying, I dare you to beat us this way. And so the Titans choose to dedicate some more bodies to the box and defend that way. That wouldn't shock me at all. But some numbers on Ingram and what he's done, not just to the Titans, but to all the teams the Titans or the Jaguars have played. Evan Ingram ranks 2nd in the league among tight ends with 300 yards after the catch. Ingram is also the only tight end to have 300 yards after catch and over 400 total receiving yards so far this season. That is just reflective of the fact that they are not afraid to look to him early and often in games.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, I think it's mainly because Trevor Lawrence does have a much better and stronger connection with those two over Calvin Ridley. Obviously, Calvin Ridley,
just for time,
it is his first season back, and he does play in a more dynamic way that isn't, is not kind of the Trevor Lawrence's bread and butter. Trevor Lawrence, when he is operating in the pocket there, he's looking for his guys that he knows.
Slice and dice underneath in structure.
Yeah,
right.
So it's tough for Calvin Ridley, but yeah, I would say that the important things to do in this game, if you're going to eliminate two guys, you have to eliminate the guys Trevor Lawrence feels most comfortable with throwing to, and that's Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram.
One more number for you before we talk about some key matchups in this game. You want to guess? I don't know if you've seen it in the rundown or not, but I hope not. You want to guess how many touchdowns the Titans have this year on the road? They've played 5 games, 5 such games. How many touchdowns they have?
Well, I know they didn't score one last week, so that narrows it down to 4 games.
They didn't score one in Cleveland either.
They didn't score one in Cleveland. I'll say, that Colts game was kind of high scoring, so I'll say 4.
2. They scored 2 on the road. One was Tyjae Spears, a long run. The other, I cannot remember. They may both belong to Spears. I know one is Spears. I don't remember who the other one is, but the point is, Joseph, you were a hair under. Joseph in the comments saying 1 touchdown. They've had 2, but in 5 games, it's not a very good rate. An interesting edge in this game. I was looking at some advanced metrics this week on both of these teams, trying to see where the Titans might be identifying from a scheme perspective, ways to get the edge on this team. I think there's a coverage edge that the Titans may be looking to exploit. I saw a chart put out, and I wish I saved it to give credit. I was looking before the show, couldn't find it. A chart of every NFL quarterback this season so far and their success rate against each type of defensive coverage, as well as how frequently they've faced that coverage. And Trevor Lawrence, you look at his line, and it's color-coded and everything, so you can tell it's like a heat map where he's good, where he's bad. Sticks out like a sore thumb. His cover 3 success rate. He is easily at his worst when he faces cover 3, one of the worst in the league, and he's faced it a decent amount this year. Naturally, I think teams are identifying that as something they want to throw at him, and so he's continuing to struggle against it. So it's not like it's a 10-snap sample size. He's faced it quite a bit. The Titans, so I went and I thought, okay, what are the Titans doing in cover 3 so far this year? Is that a strength of theirs? They are running cover 3. The Titans are 30% of the time this season, the highest percentage coverage for them on the year so far. And in terms of how well they've run it, how much success they found in that coverage, in cover 3, the Titans are 21st in the league in success rate and 17th. They have the 17th best EPA per play in cover 3. Now, those aren't astounding numbers, but when you consider in comparison to the rest, like just overall, how the success rate of the Titans secondary, overall the EPA per play rate, those are both above average for them. So they are better in cover 3 than in other elements of this of the playbook for their secondary. And so it would not shock me at all if you saw quite a bit of cover 3 this week against a Jaguars team, and Trevor Lawrence in particular, who has struggled against that. Okay, you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, at least for that one, right? It's how the Titans are going to have to attack this game, because as we said on Wednesday's show, the Titans just don't have the personnel talent-wise to really make that factor. So and we saw Shane Bowen also say today, the defense just has not effectively played well enough to win games. And I think that is a little bit true.
I disagree with him on that. Actually. Yeah, I mean, this was the whole topic of debate on a football show on Monday. There is a big difference between playing well. I strongly contend that they have given the offense a chance to win all but one game this year. But they've also not been playing well. Yes. I agree with that part.
And
to their standard,
I think what I was about to say with that is that I agree with you that the Titans they've kept them in games, but we haven't seen that shutdown dominant style defense that we're very accustomed to. And I think that rings true because just the personnel is a lot different and a lot weaker than it has been in previous years. And there's going to have to be some guys who step up, especially this week.
Well, you've got like Sean Murphy-Bunting.
Yes.
Injuries on the secondary where you are even further hamstrung as to what you can and can't do. Now, we'll talk later in the news with producer JT about what the Titans' injury situation looks like this week. And spoiler, it's been good news so far for Sean Murphy-Bunting. Not a lock, but promising. So we'll get to that in a bit. Stoney joining us. Love when Stoney joins us in the comments. Just got here, he says, but I always love cooking dinner for my wife. What a gentleman. Stoney Keeley is a gentleman, an entertainer, a reader and writer, a lover of the arts,
an enjoyer of IHOP turkey stuffing sandwiches.
I mean, dare I say Stoney Keeley is the greatest Renaissance man that I know.
Could he be the next guy for the Dos Equis most interesting man in the world?
In my opinion, he is one of the most interesting people that I know, and he's a Renaissance man, and I love him to death. So, Stoney, thank you for being here. He says that they're having chicken marsala tonight. I need
fancy.
When am I getting an invite to the Keeley household? This needs to happen. Okay, I don't know. We can get past the holidays, but sometime I'm going to invite myself over there, Stoney, because I need to try your delicious cooking. All right, back to the Titans. Stoney says, bless you too. No, bless you, Stoney. I want to talk about the Jaguars offensive line. And last week, a lot of the issues that they were plagued with were a result of, shockingly enough, in any football game, this is the case. They couldn't protect Trevor Lawrence. They could not give their offensive plays time to develop. And there were a couple of cut-ups from the tape from different tape specialists, tape grinders on twitter.com this week of some particular, because I didn't get to watch that game live. I went back and watched most of it later after the fact. But there were some cut-ups of some particularly egregious blocking attempts, if you could call that, from the Jaguars offensive line. They got overwhelmed and plays were broken by that Niners pass rush a number of times.
I mean, yeah, certainly for a guy in Chase Young who just got here 10 seconds ago, he looked like he was that like I said, he looked like more people should have been banging the table screaming veto, veto, veto to that trade for the San Francisco 49ers for sure.
Where's Roger Goodell? Get in here, Raj. Joseph in the comments says that the defense has played well enough to win if the offense holds up their end of the bargain. However, they are far away from the top 5 defense. Many of us thought they could be. Absolutely, Joseph. That's the case. And that's what I want to talk about here. It's that defense that has to get after the quarterback this week if they want to have a game plan that looks anything similar to what San Francisco did last week. Now, looking at the individuals on the Jaguars offensive line, those bookend tackles are what I think the Titans are going to be keying in on. The Jaguars have Cam Robinson at left tackle, veteran player, and then rookie Anton Harrison, who we talked about a lot in the spring. He is holding down the right side of that offensive line. And last week, on the season, he's done a pretty decent job for a rookie tackle. But last week against the Niners, in particular, Nick Bosa, he got his lunch eaten. I mean, he was under attack all day and was just a bit overwhelmed for most of that game. The Titans don't have a Nick Bosa. They do have, again, on paper, a complement of pass rushers that should be able to get after the quarterback. Harold Landry, who feels like he's getting better each and every week, even though I don't think he's back to 100% yet in terms of speed and agility.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry, Tier Tart, Arden Key. These guys, again, on paper, it's a nice group, but they've been so disappointing, so underwhelming so far this season that what are your expectations for them in this game? I every week it feels like, for me mentally, I'm like, okay, maybe this is the week where they a lot of games where it felt like they just took over and they were the reason the Titans were held in. And this year, it's not really happened since week 1. Is this where they finally have that game?
For me, I'm not putting a lot of expectations on it. If I had expectations for it, my expectations would for them to be a little bit more consistent. If not, like, I'm not expecting them to just get better overnight like that. I want to see at least a bit more consistency, because we did see that in the beginning of that Buccaneers game last week. You saw Baker Mayfield getting very, very hurried, and that's what led to the interception on the first drive and just some bad overthrows. And then once you get into the game, that pass rush just kind of gets away, and that's where Baker Mayfield has the time to find and let plays develop, and he finds Mike Evans a lot more frequently and Chris Godwin, and that's where it starts to get you in trouble. And I think you could see that a lot again this week if that follows suit. If you get Trevor Lawrence time, he's going to have guys like Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram, and I can go on and on. If these guys get the chance to develop their roots and the play works out, he's going to find them. So I would say that it could be a week. It's Arden Key's homecoming week. He's going back to Jacksonville. Maybe that gives him some extra motivation. We hear Jeffrey Simmons every single week just say, basically, we have to be better.
Yep, stay in the river.
And it
chugging.
Stays pretty consistently inconsistent. So maybe we see that play get better. Tier Tart, his name we haven't called very much this season, it feels like. And if Danico Autry can kind of round out that group, like you said, I would like to see them at least be a little more consistent.
Joseph in the comments sums it up pretty well. He says, I think the recipe for a Titans W is the defense playing well, getting turnovers, and giving the offense a short field to hopefully score touchdowns instead of settling for 3. Have to be better in the red zone. Glad you bring up the red zone. We're going to talk about that in just a second, Joseph, because I have some thoughts on that. I want to address what Kenneth said, and I appreciate Kenneth, who is never afraid to push back on what I have to say in the comments. I really do appreciate that, Kenneth. He says that Easton is clinging to that scoring defense while failing to account for the mid to bottom tier offenses they have played. Ritter, Carr, Minshew, Baker, not exactly a murderer's row. I have to push back on his pushback, okay? Because he then brings up the point that he says the only good quarterbacks the Titans have faced are Lamar and Herbert. Let's talk about those guys first. Against Herbert, they won the game. So my statement of the defense did enough for the offense to win the game is objectively true. Think about the end of that game, JT. Chargers marched down into the red zone. Looks like they may get the winning touchdown there at the buzzer. Big Harold Landry sack forces them into a field goal kick into overtime, and that's where the Titans go on to win that game outright. The fact that they gave up 27 points is ignoring the fact that the defense did their job, gave the offense a chance to win, and the offense did, in fact, go and win. Against Lamar, I talked about this with Braden on a football show. Yes, they allowed, what was it, 24 points? I think it was 24 points in London. JT and I were at that game, and we can't even remember the score. I think it was 24-16. Yeah, because they lost by 24-16. They allowed 24 points to the Ravens, Lamar Jackson. Kenneth, what did they go and do, the Ravens, the next couple of weeks? They played 2 teams better than the Titans in the Lions and the Seahawks. Yeah. Lions, Seahawks the next 2 weeks, and scored a combined 734,207 points.
I don't think that's exactly true.
No, I did the math. That's true. They scored a gajillion points against those 2 better teams than the Titans. The fact that the Titans held that offense to only 24 points, that in hindsight, I think that is absolutely a number you can point to and say, 24 was a very good job against that very good Ravens offense, which we're going to see here in just about an hour tonight. I think that was enough to win that game.
Yeah, I mean it's 75 points if you want to get technical. So you're averaging about what 32 or 38 and a half or something. I think that's quick math, around there, 37. So yeah, I mean almost 2 full touchdowns afterwards. In the 2 weeks following the Titans win. So I mean, you do have some credit there that yes, they've done enough to keep this offense in the game. It's just the problem is everyone on the offensive line gets hurt. Ryan Tannehill. I mean, the Titans had a chance to win that Baltimore game, which would
even down to the end. I mean, Malik Willis is in the red zone after a big Tajay run, and you felt like they may have a tying chance there. And right, I love Derek in the comments shouting out the Braves, the shirt I'm wearing here. Not football related, but Ronald Acuna just won NL MVP. Love that. Very exciting. Don't you love that?
No,
for the Braves?
No, I don't.
You as a Mets fan hates that. That's surprising. Okay. Let's see. Just making sure we've addressed all our comments here. Evan says if the defense forces long passing downs, they may have a chance. He also says if Jeffrey Simmons has doubled all game, who do you see taking advantage of the one-on-one matchup? Great question. And I can go ahead and tell you Simmons is going to be doubled for a lot of the game. It depends on who is going to be facing the rookie tackle, in my opinion. And I want to say that's probably going to be Arden Key, because I don't think that they switch sides still. The last couple of games I've not checked to see if they've started switching, but I don't believe that they switch sides. And so I think Arden Key is going to get most of the game matched up against Anton Harrison. But if I'm wrong about that, just go ahead and everything I'm about to say, switch out Arden Key for Harold Landry. Mm-hmm. But that's the guy that I think has the biggest opportunity to win that matchup. Again, you got a rookie tackle who was a late first round pick, right? Like 28th overall, 29th. He was a first rounder.
Anton Harrison. Yep.
Yeah. Late first round pick this last offseason. Good prospect, good player. But he still has the ability to be overwhelmed by a veteran pass rusher, of which the most
boring, I think, of the high-end offensive line prospects. I think that was like what our decision was. He's got very good skills, but he lacks that it factor that Skoronski and Paris
the ceiling was lower.
Darnell,
right,
all those guys had.
100% agree. One last thing on this game before we get to
the slander in here is just ridiculous, man.
When was the last time the Mets won a pennant? What did he say?
86.
86.
Wasn't even a twinkle in my
father's eye. You not even close. No. Let's talk about the red zone, which Joseph brought up a moment ago. JT, there is red zone regression. There we go. Words. coming for this team. This Titans team has to regress in the red zone. It's just a matter of when. Okay, we've talked about this on a couple of shows this week, but right now, Tennessee is 31st in the league for their red zone efficiency, turning red zone trips inside their opponent 20-yard line into touchdowns instead of field goals. They are almost dead last. Now, the New York Jets have done a very impressive job of maintaining that last position, but both of them are in the 30s or lower. And when you look historically, that number has to improve for both teams. If it holds, which again, I'm positive it won't, but if it were to hold the success rate that both teams have had in the red zone, they would be number 1 and number 2 in the last decade for worst red zone efficiency in the NFL. That's not for both teams. It's not going to be the case. Now, they both could finish near or at the bottom this year, absolutely, but they're going to get closer to that 50% mark as time goes on. And so it begs the question, when does that start to come back to the center? When do they start to regress back to the mean? This Titans team has been a shell of its former red zone glory self this year. It's been about execution. It's been about getting behind the sticks. It's been about having pre-snap penalties, ruin drives. It's been about failing to execute in key spots. You've got plays where things are schemed up, right? You got Chick on the goal line last week where he's got a ball in between the defenders, middle of the field, standing on the goal line, hits him in the hands. It's a bit of a hummer from Will Levis, but that's an NFL ball that you got to catch. It hits him right here. He volleyball sets it up into the air and it almost gets intercepted. It's not for a DeAndre Hopkins PBU where he sheathed his sword playing DB there for a minute. So that was the kind of thing where you've got to execute on those plays. You can't get behind the sticks where on your first 2 plays you go nowhere because you're running jumbo packages trying to run the ball and you're getting no push still despite having the body and number advantage on the field. That can't happen. And so that's something where each and every week I'm going to continue to look to say, okay, we've not had the week yet where the Titans go 3 for 4 in the red zone, where the Titans go for 2 for 2 in the red zone. It's been a lot of 1 for 4s and 1 for 3s and 0 for 2s. Is this the week where they finally do that?
Yeah, I mean, to not get
yes, it is.
I mean,
here you heard it here first. JT says yes, it is.
I said yeah. I mean,
no, you said yeah. No, I know you said yeah.
Not to get too into baseball here, but it's kind of like a baseball's hitter. You know, they are in this historic slump, and like you said, it has to get better sometime. They're going up against a pass rush that I think is not the greatest in the world. Obviously, Josh Allen is playing amazing football right now. He's kind of come back and become the prospect that they thought he was going to be. Trayvon Walker still is just like not it, and he continues to prove that
he's been fine. He's just not been number 1 overall pick material at all. No,
overall. So I mean, I think they're going to have a better time this week. I think the offensive line will probably be able to handle this line, unlike the giant monster that Villa is. The
interior should have a better day than last week. Yeah.
So I think they will have the opportunity to get into the red zone, and the way they can do that, as everyone now in unison is talking about in the chat here, Levis using his legs to at least move the chains could be crucial.
Bingo. That's the last thing I want to talk about here, because Kenneth and Joseph and Evan all on the same page here in the comments, and we heard it this week from Will Levis on his Wednesday press availability. He said that he self-scouting and has decided that he needs to move a little bit more. And this is what we've been calling for. Again, we talked on Wednesday a lot. Wednesday was a great episode. I don't often endorse past episodes on this show, but I absolutely recommend going and listening to our Wednesday show. We covered 3 really big topics, brought a lot of numbers, a lot of strong opinions that I think you're going to either agree with or strongly disagree with and find it entertaining nonetheless. So go check that out. But we talked a lot about how they've got to find ways to get creative, and they are hamstrung in that capacity because it's hard to be creative when you have bad players and when you have glaring holes. One of the things they absolutely can do, it doesn't require any more personnel, doesn't even require a change in scheme or a change in play calling. Will Levis can move more. He's young and he's athletic, and so that's good. Congratulations. You're capable of doing that, Tennessee Titans. He needs to be able to move more. Now, that doesn't mean he needs to force it and bail on clean pockets. They do occasionally provide him a clean pocket. He needs to, it's a difficult task to find that line between where you need to not bail early and you need to go ahead and get out of there. But he needs to be booted. So they need to take that choice away from him is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Instead of forcing him on plays where it's a 3, 5, 7-step drop in the pocket, and he's got to decide when to leave and when not to. Get some action designed into the play. Get some boots. Get some designed rollouts. Get some double or triple options in there. Like, give this guy some designed ability to move and use his athleticism. That is what they have to do in this game, and I think that they will, based on what they've said this week.
And as this thought just popped into my mind, it's almost been the exact opposite of Malik Willis in the sense that Will Levis stays in the pocket even when it has collapsed and tries to make that play. Where
it's an admirable trait, to be fair. Like that's a good thing, but he needs to do it less.
Where he could maybe make a play on his feet, whereas Malik Willis just shrivels up and instantly goes into fight or flight mode and tries to scramble. So both of these quarterbacks need to regress to a healthy medium where their decision making is a little bit more 50-50, I would say.
I completely agree. All right. Anything else from folks in the comments or from you, JT, before we move on to the news?
We got one more comment here where Joseph is saying, I think he would be a great quarterback at the improvised plays when things break down, getting out of the pocket and buying some time and hit a deep bomb downfield when coverage breaks down. Yeah, just making sure that the play continues to progress, because
he showed us that in the Atlanta game, by the way. I mean, that fourth touchdown pass across the field to NWI, his most impressive pass of the day. That was I don't think it was designed. I think he evaded the pocket, escaped the pocket, evaded the pass rush, moved to that right-hand side of the field, bought himself some time, and then threw off his back foot and used that arm arrogance to his advantage. That's the kind of thing we're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That is it for us today on the preview, but we have 2 great segments left, so don't go anywhere. We've, of course, got the best segment of the week, in my opinion, the best bet gauntlet coming up, and we've got a juicy slate for you this week. It is a lot of lines that we like, not a lot that we love, but there's plenty of value to be had, so we'll be talking about that, looking to make you some more money. But right now, we've got to get to the news with producer JT. Before we do, if you're watching with us on YouTube, we see that a number of you are. Do us a favor. If you're not subscribed to Broadway Sports Media already, please, personal favor, do that for us. It costs you nothing. It helps you get access to these in the future. You'll get alerts and notifications if you so choose. If you hit that notification bell to know when we are live and when we are talking Titans. And if you're listening now, I'd imagine you'd like to listen in the future. So hit subscribe to be able to do that. All right, let's get to the news with producer JT. As always on Thursday, it's the injury report first. JT, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so a couple of notes on this injury report. First of all, Chance Campbell, the linebacker, goes onto the IR, so he'll be out at least 4 weeks. Sounds like it might be a little bit more with that knee injury. Obviously, sustained that in practice, or not in pregame warmups before the game against the Buccaneers. So he is not going to go for the foreseeable future. Some guys who definitely are not going to go this week: wide receiver Treylon Burks, who still has not practiced because of that concussion. Kind of something that we said last week, that concussion was pretty serious, so they would at least probably sit him out those 2 weeks. Next week we'll have to see, though. And then Andre Dillard also not practicing this week because of a concussion. Is that a good thing? Is it not? Obviously, it's not worse. Good for human.
Yeah, sure.
Could it, maybe be a little better, of course, for the Titans this week, kind of give them some more clarity on the offensive line? Maybe. We'll have to see. And then get to some of the guys, like you said, that are questions this week. Daniel Brunskill, limited practices on Wednesday and Thursday with that ankle injury. He said today that he's hoping he's ready to go soon.
Yep.
So that's good for him. And then
big news, by the way. I mean, they need him back.
Yeah, and then Sean Murphy-Bunting with that thumb, who earlier this week he did tell the media that he did have surgery to repair that thumb. He's been limited twice this week. Those 2 guys, do you think they have a chance of going this week?
I do. I mean, as always, the Friday injury report is the most telling, but I think that both have a chance. It sounds from what I'm hearing like Sean Murphy-Bunting is likely to go at this point. We'll find out some more tomorrow. And then, of course, on Sunday, he's somebody that wouldn't shock me if tomorrow he's listed as questionable and then as a game time decision to be sure. But yeah, it'll be if they can get all 3 of their top corners on the field in SMB, Roger McCreary and Christian Fulton, who have been playing varying levels of good ball recently. Like, if they can get that to click at the same time for the first time all year, it could revolutionize the way the secondary is playing, which is sorely needed.
Yep. And then on the Jacksonville Jaguars side, just a couple of ones here. Jamal Agnew did not practice yet this week. Doesn't sound like he's going to go. And then
I believe he's been confirmed out for the week. Yeah.
So he will not go this week. And then Tyson Campbell also not practicing yet this week for a hamstring. So that at least weakens that Jacksonville secondary a little bit. And then just a couple of other guys. Zay Jones, who's been limited, obviously has that off the field incident right now. Not sure if he's going to go.
Right.
A guy to keep your eye on there. And then Anton Harrison also limited, another guy to keep your eye on because you never know.
Yep. All right. What else we got in the news?
Yeah, and then one more thing here. Let's just talk about, like you were saying, the Titans defense has held their opponents to few enough points to win ball games this year.
That might be changing.
It might be changing because of just the strength of schedule the Titans have had to go through in their first weeks 1 through 10. So wanted to show you this graphic, but obviously with our live setup, we couldn't. So gonna have to do some charades here and just kind of
right. We'll chart it out.
Chart it out.
Whiteboard. We'll draw it for you right here.
Exactly. So the Titans through the first 10 weeks.
10 weeks. There you
have
go.
been in, at least on the strength of schedule side, been in the quadrant that is titled facing bad offenses and good defenses, which is true for the most part. And then for the future of their strength of schedule here, they are facing bad offenses and are facing good offenses, but with bad defenses. So,
so a chance for the offense to get off the schneid a little bit, to put some games together, which is exciting for Levis. I think that's what most fans would choose right now. But it does mean that the defense is going to, again, this could be good news. If you're looking to spin it, it's okay. You're given a little bit of a reprieve in terms of difficulty of defensive opponent to this offense that needs it badly. They need to start stacking games, stacking reps, getting something going. On defense, they have this, again, they have the capability to be the unit that carries. Now is the time for them to step up. If they don't, the Titans could be in some shootouts going forward, or they could get trounced going forward. But if they do step up in a big way, this Titans team could start to put some games together. Because, and we didn't really talk about this, JT. Like, it's crazy. The Titans are 3-6. They're 15th out of 16 teams in the AFC. However, looking at the AFC South, if they were to win this week, they would go to 4-6. The Jaguars would go to 6-4. They'd be 2 games back with the tiebreaker head-to-head against Jacksonville, with another Jacksonville game coming. So the math there is the magic number there is 1. The Titans would need to win 1 more game down the stretch than the Jaguars do, as well as win against the Jaguars in order to have the at home in Nashville to have that tiebreaker. So just to make that crystal clear, if the Titans win this game, which they're not favored to do, we're talking about that in the Best Bet Gauntlet here in a second. But if they squeak this one out, the magic number for them is 1 against the Jaguars going forward. They need to have 1 more non-Jacksonville win than the Jaguars do to have that tiebreaker against them. And then the Texans and the Colts both at one is at 5-5, one's at 5-4 after this week. They could be at 6 wins. They could be still at 5 wins. And this AFC South race, the bottom of the line here, is it could get tight in a hurry if things break the Titans' way. Now, again, we're not saying that it's going to or it's likely to, but it's possible. And if there was ever a Mike Vrabel spot, this weekend feels like one of them. We know what happened in Jacksonville at the end of last year with Josh Dobbs as quarterback, and it came down to some ref ball that decided that one. And that was a low-scoring game, and the Titans' shell of a team gave a Jacksonville team that was much hotter at the time than they are right now. To be fair, like, a lot of people are going to say, well, this Titans team right now is worse than they were even at the end of last year. This Jaguars team is worse right now than they were at the end of last year, I would argue. So it wouldn't shock me at all if this is a gross, ugly, low-scoring game. So that's a big deal for them. All right, any more news for us today?
That's going to do it for today.
Right, that's producer JT with the news, and that leaves us with one more segment to get through today's show. It's the Best Bet Gauntlet, Week 11 edition. Of course, if you're new to the show, JT and I, each and every week, go into the Best Bet Gauntlet with our favorite sides of the week. This is a betting segment where JT and I draft back and forth our 5 each favorite sides of the week, so our 10 favorite sides. We are winning you money on a very large sample size since the beginning of this segment at the beginning of last year. We'll get those updated numbers to you. I didn't get them today. I'll get them next week. But this year so far, I am just above 500 at 25, 24, and 1. JT carrying the show, still hot, 30, 18, and 2. So as a show, we are at, is this an updated number,
Yes.
JT? 55, 42, and 3, which is 55% making money. We got some work to do. We've regressed a little bit, but this holiday season, last year was when we started to get hot. It's time to get hot again. And so with that, I suppose I'm first this week.
Yes.
I will take the first pick. So my first bet of the Week 11 Best Bet Gauntlet, I'm taking the only side on the slate that I actually truly love. It's the Los Angeles Rams +1 at home against Seattle. Some thoughts on this game, JT. People are absolutely, in my opinion, sleeping on this Rams team because, one, they just had their bye, so it's easy to kind of forget about them. And two, they didn't have Stafford before they went on bye, and they were getting beat up pretty bad. They kind of fell under after the Puka and Cooper Kupp hubbub of early season came down to a simmer. Mm-hmm. The Rams kind of faded off into the back of everyone's mind. They're back. They're playing a division opponent this week. And this is the first matchup, in the first matchup, reading my own notes is hard. In the first matchup between these teams, the Rams outgained Seattle 426 to 180 and more than doubled them first downs in that game. That was without Cooper Kupp, who's going to be, of course, a nice addition for them. And this one, he's going to get his. They're getting Matthew Stafford back for this game. If folks haven't heard the news, so that's a big one. They're rested. Seattle, their wins this year, you look at them, they've been kind of fraudulent, right? Yeah. Like who have they beaten this year? Okay, they beat the Giants, a bottom 5 team. They beat Carolina, a bottom 5 team. They beat Arizona pre-Kyler returning. They beat Washington barely last week. They beat Cleveland with PJ Walker. And they beat the Lions, which is flowers for that, but it was in overtime, right? So they don't have really any definitive, impressive wins where you look at that and you say that if that's the team that shows up, that's going to be a game breaker. You look at the head coaching matchup here. McVay against Seattle in his career as the head coach of the Rams. He's 10-4 against the spread all time versus Seattle. 6-0 in the last 6. He's had their number for 3 years now, and I think it's going to continue this week. I think that they're going to win outright at home. Give me the Rams +1 versus Seattle.
Yeah, I wish I would have lost this past week so I could pick first because I really
you weren't happy about me taking that one.
I was not at all. Ride the hot hand of maybe a top 5 quarterback right now in the league in CJ Stroud. I'm going to take
playing like one.
The Houston Texans -5 right now at home against the Arizona Cardinals. Just first of all, straight up, is there any position group on the Arizona Cardinals that is better than a position group on the Houston Texans right now? I can think of maybe James Conner, who was good at football, by the way. Besides that, I
would say like maybe their pass rushes are equal, but that's a maybe.
Yeah,
that's a maybe.
I mean,
everything else, no. Texans are the better quarterback right now.
Texans have the much better quarterback. I think they have the much better overall defense, at least in that secondary, especially. That talk about a mismatch right there between those secondaries. Houston Texans have a great secondary.
Well, and how is Arizona going to stop Houston? They can't. Exactly. The secondary is trash. They can't cover them through the air, and they can't get after the quarterback very well. Yeah. So, CJ Stroud, any reason to believe he's not going to be epic this weekend?
Yep. It's hard to say. However, there are a couple numbers against this one. Like I said, I like this. I don't love it. Mm-hmm. I can get it at -5 right now. If it goes down, you might want to do a little bit of window shopping with this one. CJ Stroud 0-3 against the spread as a favorite all time. I don't think that stays that way forever, especially how good he's playing. This team is finally fully healthy. They're also playing a Arizona team that is coming off a win. And it's smart to fade those teams that are coming off a win that are pretty bad. Teams that are 1-4 in their last 5 games coming off a win are 79, 136, and 1 straight up in the last 20 years. That's 36.7% right there. I like the Houston Texans this week. I'm going to take them because I think CJ Stroud is on top of the world. I think Kyler's nice, but I don't think Kyler can single-handedly win this game by himself. So
I'm with you on that bet. With my week 11 second overall best bet gauntlet pick, I'm taking the Cleveland Browns -1 at home against Pittsburgh. Listen, I've been hating on this Pittsburgh team for a couple of weeks, and I will continue. They are frauds. I will continue to call them what they are, which is fraudulent. Both quarterbacks in this matchup stink. Like folks are saying, PJ Walker, who is
call your darling DTR.
Or not PJ Walker, DTR.
You just call him. Did you say he stinks?
So here's the deal. He does not. I don't think he's going to stink, but he's played 1 game this year and he stunk in that game. Now in that game, he was playing on 0 notice. I think he was told the day before the game that he was playing. It was against the Ravens, right? It was a very bad spot for him. He's had a full week to prepare. Okay, Deshaun Watson was ruled out early in the week. It's been DTR getting all the first team reps so far this week. And Kenny Pickett, I mean, we know he's not any good. And so I think that the only really truly good side of either of these teams is the Cleveland's defense. They are clearly the most dominant side of the ball on either of these teams. And so I think that the game plan for Cleveland is going to be, let's run the ball down their throats. Let's not turn the ball over. Let's scheme up when we want to throw the ball and do so frugally, do so efficiently, and just not give the game away. That's really the key against this Pittsburgh team. It's opportunistic and easily the luckiest team in the league. This voodoo simply has to end for them. They are so lucky. They're total frauds. Again, they've not had a single game this year where they have outgained their opponent. They've been so fortunate. I think it ends this week. I think the Browns win outright with DTR. I think they're just going to run down the throats of that Pittsburgh defense, and I think that this is going to be a very low-scoring game. Give me Cleveland outright, but I'll take a -1, a very short favorite versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in Cleveland.
Yeah, I agree with you there. My next pick here, going with the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles in a Super Bowl rematch. For me, like I said, I like this pick. I don't love it. It's a lot of ugly games this week. A lot of good games, but ugly totals or sides this week. But really an auto bet for me. A couple of reasons why here. So the Eagles, this is the first time all year that they've been an underdog, teams to be underdogs for the first time in their 10th game or later, or 6-23 straight up and 12-16-1 against the spread. Hurts also as an underdog has not been great in his career. He's 3-8 straight up and 5-6 against the spread as an underdog. And then of course you have Patrick Mahomes. When you get him underneath the touchdown, which I don't think it stays that way forever. So go out if you like this one, bet it now. 33-10 straight up, 25-17-1 against the spread in those games as a dog of, or as a favorite of 3 or less. I like him obviously. Sure. Andy Reid also off the bye. Yep. Feels like a good spot for Patrick Mahomes to kind of get this statement win. I get it. The Eagles have been waiting for this game, but that's what
I'm hesitant about.
I still think this Chiefs team does enough to get it done. So give me them.
All right. I am going to, with my third overall pick of the best bet gauntlet, week 11, take the Denver Broncos to ride at home, continue riding a 2-game winning streak. They are hosting the Minnesota Vikings this week. As much as Josh Dobbs and this Vikings team has been a very fun story this year, and they've been fun. I mean, they have been a blast. I think that there's a little reality check this week coming, and the hype is going to be dampened just a bit. I think the Denver at home in this matchup has the advantage against a Minnesota team that's been overachieving a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this Minnesota team is better than folks give them credit for. I actually think this Minnesota team may be better than the team last year, even though the records aren't reflective of that. But this Denver team, I mean, we're close to some folks having to give Sean Payton some serious apologies because he took his time. Didn't look great at the beginning of the year, but he started to turn things around. You could argue he's fixed Russ. Russ looks significantly better this year than last. They've started to really find their rhythm on offense, and defensively, they've been playing a little bit above their pay grade, I think. I think that Denver wins this game outright. I think they go on a 3-game win streak and raise some eyebrows for some folks as they get back into the race. I think they win outright against a Minnesota team that is due for some regression. Give me Denver -2 at home against Minnesota.
Yeah, so with my next pick here, probably the ugliest one in the entire world. I'm taking the Chicago Bears.
Oh, I'm going to one-up you in a minute, but all right.
Chicago Bears +7.5, but wait, there's more. You can now get it at +8 on DraftKings.
It was at 10 earlier this week. It might continue to go back up.
It might go back up as the kind of shifts and shakes here. I think this is
because the public's going to come in on the line. Yes. They've been the most public team this year. Mm-hmm. It's going to, I mean, like, if folks bet with JT, and you should take all of our bets here on the best bet going. Bet it Sunday morning at 11:37.
You might go to like 10.5.
Yeah, like bet it at the last minute. Let the public get all their money in there if you're going to take the Bears.
Listen, I think this is a pretty easy one. I think this Chicago Bears team has sneakily just gotten a lot better with time. They
Justin
go out
Fields
and
back, by the way.
Justin Fields coming back.
Yep.
Khalil Herbert also coming back this week, so that rushing attack is better. That offensive line, who I think is getting Nate Davis back this week, has been sneaky.
Titans legend Nate Davis.
Titans legend Nate Davis, who's kind of been MIA for this entire season.
Kind of. He has been MIA the entire season.
He's trending to be back this week, so it's been a solid unit. I think that with the signing of Montez Sweat, they're going to be able to get after the quarterback. Obviously, it's a divisional dog here, a divisional dog with a lot of points on the line there. I think that they're going to be able to get after him. Justin Fields back when he last played things were clicking for this offense. So yeah, pretty much I just think it's too many points for this one, so I'm taking the Bears.
Fair enough. Derek in the comments saying he's not betting against the Pastronaut. Fair enough, Derek. I just listen here. This is what sharp betting is. It's not fun. You have to really poo-poo the teams that are the hot fun topic. You've got to bet against the noise. You got to bet against the public, and that's what this is. So maybe I'm wrong in this instant, but I think over time, over the aggregate, this is a winning play. Another winning play. The grossest bet I would contend on the board this week. This goes against some things I've said in the past, and I'm going to clarify because I'm not being hypocritical here. It's just it requires context. With my fourth pick of the Week 11 Best Bet Gauntlet, I'm taking Carolina, the Panthers, at home, -10 and the hook, -10.5. Excuse me. Yeah. Ooh, good grief. Carolina +10 and the hook, +10.5.
I mean, if you want to get
at
crazy,
home. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, in the past, repeatedly, I have been the one on this show to say the Cowboys do nothing but beat up on bad teams. And this is a bad Carolina team. But what else have we seen the Cowboys do this year? They murdered a Giants team earlier in the year, and then they turned around and lost pretty much everybody's survivor pools by losing outright to Arizona in week 3. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm kind of thinking is going to happen here. The Cowboys have a pretty decent sample size in the past couple of weeks. They have some instances of playing really, really, really great and then falling flat the next week. And this game is sandwiched in between two very important games for them. So it's a very much a look ahead spot. I think that 10.5 is just too many points, and Carolina at home has had the ability to lay some voodoo on. I mean, this crazy hot Houston Texans team lost outright to Carolina 2 weeks ago. Yeah, no one wants to talk about it. Everyone's forgotten about it. I think that happens potentially, and I'm not saying they're going to win outright. But I do think they keep it way closer than folks think. I think it's a low-scoring affair. This Carolina team starts to put some things together. Now, I'm going to put a contention out there, an asterisk on this. I reserve the right to change this out. I saw Bryce Young pop up on the injury report today. He was a full participant, but they did put him on there for the first time this week. If for some reason he is hurt, and not even not playing, like if he is questionable physically going into this game, I might switch it out. But if he's good to go, taking Carolina. Give me Carolina +10.5 against Dallas.
If you want to feel better about this pick, my Cowboys friend just texted me and said, "Oh no, Easton is right." So I would feel better about it. I'm with you on that one. It seems like a classic lull Cowboys spot.
It is.
So I'm with you on that one.
Yep.
My next pick here. This is my fourth pick. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills -7 at home against the New York Jets.
Love that. Yep.
This one was pretty simple. This was one of my last picks, but I was like, wait, why didn't I take this sooner? The Jets haven't scored an offensive touchdown in 36 consecutive drives, which their last touchdown came against the Giants in week 8 in the first quarter. So it's been a long time for them. Now they're going up against a Buffalo team that, personally, I think with the news of Ken Dorsey, I think this team's got to get right quick.
A little fire in their belly.
They're playing a Jets team that frankly cannot score whatsoever.
And also embarrassed them earlier in the year, by the way.
And when Josh Allen
prime time in week 1, I mean, how much more do you need to circle that game on your schedule?
And so with Josh Allen, when he wins, he either does not cover or he wins and murders the cover there. So that's why I'm taking him. Otherwise, a lot of these games, the rest of the way here, just didn't seem as tantalizing to me. So I'm going to bet that this Buffalo defense, which I think still with how banged up it is better than this Raiders and Chargers defenses that they played in the past.
Right.
Zach Wilson couldn't even score against them. So I'm interested to see what happens here. So I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills -7.
I agree with this pick entirely. What have we said all year? And it's statistically true. Josh Allen seems to either win by over a touchdown or lose outright. There's really no in between with him. And I think this is a game. This feels like a put up or shut up game for them, because their schedule just gets harder and harder down the stretch. If they don't win this game, you really can probably write the playoffs off. So they're the more desperate team here. With my fifth and final pick of the Week 11 Best Bet Gauntlet, and look, Kenneth in the comments telling me something I already know. He says that Frank Reich took back play calling from Thomas Brown, undercutting him completely after week 1. Bad karma pick, Easton. Kenneth, I hate this pick. I hate it. You have to make it though. Like it's the kind of pick you hate and you have to make. It's one of the sharpest sides of the week. It's the pick. I promise Carolina's the side here. May lose in this moment, but just playing this spot, you're going to win money over time. That's how it works. All right, with my fifth and final pick, JT, were the people thinking that we were going to go a best bet gauntlet without picking the Titans game? Silly people. With my fifth and final pick, I'm taking the Tennessee Titans +7 at Jacksonville. Now, if this gets 7.5, I actually love it. At 7, I like it. And this is just because, again, it's an ugly, gross spot. We have the number from earlier in the show. Teams playing a Florida NFL team the Florida vibes on the second leg of a road trip or longer. They are 95, 52, and 5 against the spread in the last 20 years. It's a very big sample size with a lot of signal to it. I think that this is a Vrabel spot if there ever was one. The Titans are the more desperate team for sure here. I think this is a desperate team wins out spot. Again, do they win? Maybe not. If for some reason my gut tells me they do, my brain tells me no. Whether they win or lose, I think that they cover this number. I think the total is, I think, near 40, if not in the 30s. So it's a low scoring game. Fundamentally, as a bettor, what do we love? We love low scoring, big underdogs. Okay. Because if you're a big dog of touchdown and there's not going to be many expected points in the game, that means that you're more likely to be able to keep it close and cover that big number. I think that's the case with the Tennessee Titans here. So give me Tennessee +7, my only road team of the week at Jacksonville.
Yeah, and now with my final pick here of this week.
Let me guess. Do the people have about 37 minutes to bet this side that you're about to put out there?
The people do have 37
okay,
minutes. It's fluctuating. I can currently get it on DraftKings at +4. I'm going to take it at +4.
There you go.
I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals +4 tonight
Bungles.
on Thursday Night Football. Burrow, he's amazing against the spread when he's an underdog.
He's amazing at night in night games on the road.
Listen, okay,
primetime game.
Hold on.
Sorry, I just had to.
Burrow, 13-5 against the spread after a loss, and 5-2 against the spread as a divisional underdog. Both those 71 and 72%. Jackson has been really bad as a favorite of between 3 and 10 points. He's been 5-16 against the spread. Burrow is a perfect 10-0 against the spread as a dog of more than 3. Has Burrow not covered in a primetime game? Is his record awful? Yes. However, this is right now the Bengals mini Super Bowl. It is a must-win game if they want any chance of staying alive in this division, in my opinion. You can't lose both to Baltimore and then expect them, with how good they're playing right now, to kind of falter down the stretch here.
Yep.
I think that this Cincinnati Bengals pick, I'm putting 2 units on it tonight.
A double play.
A double play. This is a bet on the Cincinnati Bengals +4 is a bet for America, for freedom, for justice, and liberty for all. This is the time we're here. The jungle is going to roar tonight, even though it's in Baltimore.
Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is on the Bengals tonight.
Yes, he is with them tonight. So I'm taking the Bengals +4. You can count this one as a vibes pick. I'm also above 500 on vibes picks this year.
Are you 2-1?
I'm 2-1.
There you go.
Two of them have been the Bengals.
There you go. There we go.
I'm excited.
All right, Derek in the comments saying that he's considering fading all of Easton's pick this week, except for the last one. No, Derek, that's not how it works. You got to either fade all or you fade none. You don't get to pick and choose. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to everybody. Again, maybe I'll have a 1-4 week. Maybe I'll have a 4-1 week. All I know is, regardless of the outcome in this 1 week, Best Bet Gauntlet continues to make money. That's all we care about, and I like our picks this week. To recap, JT is on Houston -5 at home against Arizona. Kansas City -2.5 at home against the Eagles. Chicago +7.5 on the road in Detroit. Cincinnati +4 on the road in Baltimore. And Buffalo -7 at home against the New York Jets. My sides of the week, I'm taking the Rams +1 against Seattle at home. Cleveland -1 at home against Pittsburgh. Denver -2 against Minnesota at home. Carolina -10.5 at home against Dallas. And Tennessee on the road +7 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kenneth in the comments saying he'll be watching JT's Twitter panicking throughout tonight's game. You can guarantee, Kenneth, that is what will be happening. We'll be doing it here live at Boomboss Craft Pizza and Tap House in Spring Hill. Come on down. Come say hey if you're in the area. Again, just a 20, 25-minute drive down the interstate from Nashville. It is not too late to come join us for this banger of a Thursday night football game. Bengals at the Ravens should be an exciting one. Can't wait to get to it. That's what we're going to do right now, JT, because that is our show. Appreciate everybody watching with us, joining with us live today. Appreciate you guys always. Do us a quick favor. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We, of course, are a podcast first and foremost. So go and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. By the way, Spotify video show now available. The video version of the show is on Spotify now if you're a Spotify user, so you can catch us there. We're, of course, on YouTube, so make sure you're subscribed to Broadway Sports Media on YouTube where you're watching this. If you're watching with us live, if you're not watching live, go there right now. Open your YouTube, search Broadway Sports Media. It's the one that says BSM in blue, red, and white, the colors of America. Come on, you got to hit that subscribe button, and that will be a very good thing for us as we're continuing.
Unfortunately, America's orange and black tonight, though. But
right. Any other time, yeah. Very helpful to us. We're trying to get that count up to 1,000 by the end of the year, which I know we can do if you guys continue to subscribe for us. And make sure you're following us on social media at Hot Read Pod on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Until Monday morning, the show comes out. We're recording live on Sunday evening, recapping all things Tennessee Titans versus Jacksonville Jaguars. Between the afternoon games and the nightcap, we'll be live talking about whatever happens in a big one for the Titans in a divisional matchup. Until then, for producer JT, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. This has been the Hot Read Podcast. Thanks for watching with us. We'll talk to you this weekend.